In recent years, fighters like Khabib Nurmagomedov have helped to popularize respectful sportsmanship in MMA. However, fans still know that some of the most brutal UFC fights are born from the most bitter rivalries. If two fighters hate each other's guts, sparks tend to fly when those cage doors close. Today, we're going to take a look at some of the most entertaining rivalries in MMA. Fighters whose bad blood spilled out of the cage. From old teammates turned warring opponents, to petty misunderstandings that spiraled out of control. These are the UFC fighters who hate each other in real life. While Conor McGregor may have popularized using trash talk to hype up fights, OG UFC fans know the true godfather of awesome trash talk. That fighter is none other than Chael Sonnen. Before his retirement, Chael was famous for his witty trash talk and stinging comebacks. Great trash talk is an integral part of promoting a fight, or so Chael believes. But it's no surprise that when you're talking smack about some of the most dangerous men on the planet, some of those words are gonna come back to bite you. Chael's brash words walked him right into a bitter rivalry with one of the UFC's most feared light heavyweights, Wanderlei Silva. It all started when, while promoting his upcoming fight with Anderson Silva, Chael made some unsavory comments not only about Anderson, but his training partners, the Nogueira brothers, and the country of Brazil. Chael was pretty rude, implying Brazilians have no access to amenities, offering to bring them soap when he visited the country. Wanderlei, a Brazilian, didn't take too kindly to those comments. In 2014, he began a war of words with Sonnen. The UFC, sensing there was a great fight, and probably a lot of money to be made, booked the two fighters as coaches on the third season of The Ultimate Fighter in Brazil. Well, they were right about one thing. In episode 6 of the season, the harsh words between the two fighters came to a head when Sonnen and Silva fell into a brawl that had to be broken up by the filming crew present. As Chael pushes Wanderlei and puts his hands up, he can be heard saying, "I can't let you get close." It's gone on to become a fan favorite quote. Silva swung on Chael, who in turn immediately went for a takedown. While the crew and trailers rushed forward to break up the fight, I gotta say, it was great TV. The pair were scheduled to fight in the ring on 3 separate occasions: UFC 173, at the end of their Ultimate Fighter season, and later at UFC 175. The Ultimate Fighter bout never happened since Silva had injured his hand in the brawl we just mentioned. Ironic, huh? Their other events fell through due to both of them having issues with drug testing. The fight never transpired in the UFC. However, the two were finally able to duke it out in the cage years later. In Bellator NYC in 2017, Chael dominated the 3-round fight and walked away with a win by unanimous decision. A dejected Silva shoved Sonnen before he left the cage. So it seems that despite the fight, their dislike for each other still remains. Don't blame them too much. The pair aren't the only fighters to harbor ill will towards each other. Sometimes fighting championships can even drive a wedge between the closest of friends. And that's exactly what happened between Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz. Chuck and Tito started off as friends and training partners. The talented duo went from unknown fighters in the late 90s to UFC superstars by the early 2000s. Ortiz rose at a slightly faster pace than Liddell, earning himself the title of light heavyweight champion. When Liddell ran through the competition and found his friend a champion at the top, he wanted a title shot. Tito avoided the fight, using their friendship as an excuse. The fans saw this as ducking the fight, and so did Chuck. When Ortiz lost the belt to Randy Couture, he needed a fight to prove himself a worthy contender again, and his friend was waiting. They met at UFC 47 in 2004, where Liddell won by TKO in the second round. After this fight, it seems there was nothing left of the friendship they once had. Ortiz said in an interview that he hated Chuck, and the rematch would be different because I fight better when I hate somebody. Can you really blame him? Getting your butt whooped on a world stage would be enough to break most relationships. Chuck went on to win the belt from Couture, and he met Ortiz again in 2006 at UFC 66 in Las Vegas. This fight went pretty much the same as the first. Liddell won by TKO in the third round. The pair walked away from this fight with their friendship over. For good. Oddly, Chuck and Tito faced off a third time, more than 10 years later in 2018 through Golden Boy Promotions. This time, Ortiz got the better of Liddell with a first-round KO. The fighters weren't fighting in a large promotion and seemed to be shadows of their former selves years prior when they were in their prime. Perhaps it was just a grudge match? It seems after all these years, the bitter taste still lingers. When harsh words come to blows in the octagon, I guess you never forget. This is true of this next rivalry. It's been a few years since these fighters faced each other in the ring, but they still have words for each other online every chance they get. The beef between Daniel Cormier and Jon Jones has got to be one of the most captivating feuds in sports history, let alone MMA. It started in 2010 when the pair met backstage at UFC 121. Though they tell slightly different versions of the story, it's safe to say they simply misunderstood each other. Jon approached Cormier with what he thought was an icebreaker. Daniel perceived it as an insult and disrespect. Who knows what either of them truly intended? Either way, the rivalry that would cost them both dearly was born. After Alexander Gustafsson pulled out of his rematch with Jones for UFC 178 in 2014, Daniel was eager to step in and take a shot at his nemesis. In the lead-up to this fight, their beef turned serious. While facing off at the MGM Grand, the pair got overly aggressive and a brawl broke out between the two fighters. On a subsequent ESPN interview where the pair had to be kept in separate rooms, Dan threatened to spit in Jon's face. In return, Jon calmly threatened to kill Daniel in what has come to be known as one of MMA's most sinister verbal exchanges. When the fighters were fined for their brawl at the MGM, Jones even lost a six-figure endorsement from Nike. Neither fighters were impressed. This wasn't just about egos anymore. Money was involved. Their bout at UFC 178 was canceled due to an injury on Jon's part. The pair would finally get to fight it out at UFC 182 in 2015. Jon won the fight by unanimous decision. When the pair faced off again at UFC 214 in 2017, Jones won via TKO. This win was turned into a no contest after he failed a drug test. Despite fighting multiple times, the wounds run deep for these two fighters. And though sometimes it seems as though they've buried the hatchet, from time to time their deep resentments for each other can't help but come to light when the other is mentioned. So, from trash talk that went too far to old buddies turned vicious competitors, those are the UFC fighters who hate each other in real life.